Hello Sagittarius, and welcome to your monthly horoscope for October for the Sun or the Ascendant. Now I'm going to give you an overview of the key strands of this month before then going into greater detail, so please stay with me. The most wonderful development this month for you personally is that your ruler Jupiter will, by the 18th, have ended its 4-month retrograde. So on the 18th it goes forwards. But also Jupiter is forging a really constructive semi-sextile to Pluto, the planet of transformation, in your sector of everyday resources. And because Saturn, the planet of structure, has also been twisting backwards, and that goes forwards on the 11th, I think if there has been a bit of a blockage or an inhibition around moving forwards, around some of the important areas of your situation, you haven't been able to perhaps get across your ideas as you wish, or there's been any kind of tension with neighbours or even siblings, there could potentially be an improvement. Now, if you're new to my channel, I'd be honoured if you would subscribe by clicking on the bell notification symbol. Also, if you'd like to get your free daily written horoscope fired to your device each morning, please subscribe in the link beneath this video. I've been writing these for about 27 years, so I think I'm a bit unique for YouTube astrologers. I don't think any other YouTube astrologers also write daily horoscopes. So this gives you an opportunity to see what's going on each day for you. My work is featured in Britain's most read daily newspaper, The Metro, so it'd be great to share that with you. And also, with year 2022 racing up, if you'd like to get your forecast for next year and also your character analysis in my special package, you can also, if you order now, get the rest of this year free and 30% off. Now this is based on your time, date and place of birth, so completely unique to you and sees you ascend above Zodiac astrology and can give you searing insights into your future prospects, but also opportunities, but also where to steer clear of some pitfalls. Now, in terms of the detail of this month, as we begin, the Sun, Mars and Mercury are all in the sector of friendship in your situation, but also your long-term future. But Venus, the planet of relating, is actually tucked away in quite a tender area. So another great piece of news to tell you personally is that Venus enters your sign on the 7th, and that's going to bring you more in the present about something that's been concerning you. You may have been feeling particularly reflective about someone from your past, perhaps nostalgic, or there may have even been a separation in a really extreme case. But Venus moving into your own sign on the 7th is going to give you a much greater sense of allure. You're going to feel more self-confident. You may even give yourself a glamorous makeover. But of course, the Sun in the sign of Libra is very much about balance. So what you're looking for is balance around your future hopes, but also you're wanting fairness around your associations with others, particularly around financial issues. And because Mercury is in retrograde in the same sector as the Sun, but squaring up to the potent power broker of the Zodiac, Pluto, in the first 5 days, you could find yourself having some kind of communication with someone that is a little bit supercharged, and it may not necessarily be particularly easy. But because Mars is alongside the Sun through to day 17, one of the things to be mindful of is that Mars is very much about raw passion. It's about the need to take action quickly. It's an impatient influence, and actually in the sign of Libra, Mars is technically in an affliction. It's in its detriment, but you can make this work for you if you have a very clear vision of what you want from your future, because the Sun's combination with Mars can give you so much extra motivation, but also drive and power and vigour. It's just that with Mercury in retrograde through to the 18th, if you rush things, there may be something that you could miss or not quite see, and that could lead to a bit of an issue. And this is emphasized on the 6th, because although Pluto ends its retrograde on the 6th, which is something to celebrate, and there is a new moon, ordinarily a new moon in your sector of friendship would suggest that your social life can really blossom in the following month, and it still could. It's just that because Mars is in the mix, Mars alongside the moon is a much more volatile combination. So because the 11th house is about higher principles, if you think somebody's being unfair, then I think you can be quite strident in the following month. More so because this particular new moon is in a quincunx with Uranus. Uranus is the planet of rebelliousness, and it's in the part of your scope to do with work, to do with details, to do with health, fitness and diet. So Uranus can revolutionize those areas for you in its journey through Taurus, but in this particular relationship it suggests that if you have high expectations, they need to be balanced against the physical reality of what you're experiencing. And that's the 6th house, which is very much a Virgo type of influence, even for you, even though Uranus is actually in the sign of Taurus. So just be aware that this is quite a highly charged new moon. So you can set your sights high, you can be very principled in your approach as you see it, and you can make progress forwards. There's a lot of urgency there, but it may require you to be a little bit more flexible and not necessarily expect everything will fall into place as you exactly hope. But what's definitely going to help is the arrival of Venus in your sign on the 7th, because if you have been feeling a bit bruised by something, Venus moving into this area gives you a greater sense of self-confidence. And as I said before, it may be a great opportunity to refresh your personal appearance. But on the 11th, Saturn ends also its retrograde. And I think this is really something to savour. Pluto and Saturn both going forwards. These are the two big beasts of the outer planets in terms of raw power. Now Saturn is in your sector of everyday relating. And it's going to be forging a very constructive link with Venus in your sign through to the 16th. So there could be a conversation you have from the 10th to the 16th, which actually sorts out something that's been bothering you. But do be mindful that even though Mercury goes forwards along with Jupiter on the 18th, which means that just generally for everyone, energy is going to start to move forwards in a more free and flowing way. By the time we get to week 3, the Sun's in quite a tasty right angle to Pluto. So that principle of feeling that something's unfair or not very just could show itself again. And that full moon is actually in your sister fire sign of Aries. Now Aries energy for you, 5th house, very much to do with your personal expression and your needs as an individual, but the 11th house energy of the Sun is about the collective. And because the position of Pluto, which squares up to the point of where the moon occurs, it's 90 degrees angle, that's creating friction with Pluto in your sector of values. So maybe you're going to need to be more cautious around risk taking, because the 5th house rules gambles and risks. Maybe you're going to have to contain a desire to be more flamboyant when it comes to your social expenditure. Maybe there's someone you want to spoil rotten that you really love, and you know, ask yourself the question, what is your motivation? Because that's often what Pluto's asking us to be mindful of. But generally speaking, Mercury and Jupiter going forwards is great for you. And if there has been some crosswires with friends, or you haven't heard from someone for a while and have wondered why that is, I think both Jupiter and Mercury going forwards on the same day can bring a lot of reassurance around communication. But on the 23rd, the Sun powers its way into your 12th solar house. And this can be quite an interesting transition. The 12th house is about where we take stock. It's a kind of Pisces energy. So it's asking us to just think back over the previous 11 months and try to understand what that journey has meant before the sun actually emerges and moves into your sign. So this journey into Scorpio is much more psychological. As I'm often saying about you, Sagittarius, and remember I do have Mars in Sagittarius, you can be very positive, innately, upbeat, but sometimes we do have to process more tender and delicate events. So that's what the 12th house energy of the sun and its transit will ask you to do. Now, from the 23rd to the 29th, there is the need for a little bit of caution, because that glorious Venus in your sign can be drawing admirers to your door, especially if you're single. But because it's tangling with Neptune, someone really could pull at your heartstrings, say all the right things, be very beguiling, a mixture of very attractive but also very evocative in a kind of emotional sense, but actually it might not be the right relationship for you. So Venus squaring Neptune can be very smoke and mirrors around relationships. So just be conscious of that. And also from the 17th to the 26th, Mars, which is continuing until the 30th in the sign of Libra, that gets into a right angle with Pluto too. So if this pointed principle around this financial matter, or around trying to balance what you want from your future but being realistic about how you're going to make it work in a practical way, that may again rear its head. And also from the 27th to the 31st, the Sun in Scorpio squares up with Saturn. So Saturn may be going forwards. Someone could tell you something across those days which actually you think about it and then say, ouch. So someone could be quite cutting and to the point and pretty economical with their speech. They're not going to beat around the bush. They could tell you quite directly that they're not particularly impressed with a facet of your approach. But who says it and the way this happens could come as quite a surprise. It could sort of jar on your senses a little bit. But then on the 30th, Mars does move from your sector of the collective, of higher principles, of friendship, your longer term future, and joins up with the Sun in that 12th house. And between the end of this month and the second week of December, some quite painful events from your past may come back into your consciousness or your dreams in a much more vivid way. For example, your emotions could get much closer to the surface. If you're someone who doesn't tend to, get very irritated or angry very easily, you might be surprised by how tender you feel and how things can take on a life force of their own. Mars going through the 12th house is quite tricky, but what it can get us to do is to directly face issues we don't want to look at. The 12th house is where we sort of think, well, yeah, I'll put that to one side, anxieties, fears, the subconscious, some ailments that may even be psychosomatically based. All those things may be something that you might have to grapple with through to the second week of December. And if you can, with Mars in the 12th house, just know this is going on and don't try to avoid it. It actually gets a lot easier, and suddenly you're gaining much more knowledge, which is something you have a fantastic gift for. You're downloading all this knowledge about maybe psychology in general, or reaching out into personal development courses, or taking more interest in astrology to find out what makes you tick or others tick at a much deeper level. You can gain enormously through this period. It's just a choice. If you decide to try and avoid it, it can really bite you on the bum. So to recap, the first 2/3 of this month gives you a glorious opportunity to work towards long-term aims, to try to connect to others in a collective way, to work collaboratively and cooperatively. But I feel there is going to be a need to be flexible. It can't all be exactly as you want. And if you are being maybe a little too hopeful about one particular big strand in your life, and you need to be a bit more rooted about the financial side of something. So for example, you might have a great idea, but you've got to get funding for it. And the great idea might be so groundbreaking or innovative or different that if you do speak to a bank, they just don't really get where you're coming from. So the only way to gain the traction in this project may be to write a very authoritative business plan, do huge research, be very compelling in your approach, and then reach out to someone who might understand, say it's in technology, someone who might fund it, who's used to being working with more unusual or unique ideas. But if you're trying to do something new, but trying to work through the old ways of gaining support for that, you might feel a bit alienated and it's not getting the support and traction you want. And then later in the month, I think there may be a need to just pause a little bit, take a breath, download everything that's happened, but generally energy will start to open up again for us all. It's just one of the things I feel that Sagittarius people can really hold back from is just really sitting quietly and just being able to be vulnerable and to accept that it's not all go. It's not all about adventure. It's not all about knowledge and taking on exciting new challenges. Sometimes we just need to have a little bit of a pause, and your pause is towards the end of this month. Please stay safe, take care, good luck, and goodbye.